Hey y'all, it's time for the next installment in my acclaimed television drama, How I Spent My Budget by Louise Poston. In this video, I'm going to be telling you how I spent my budget in the month of October. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Hannah. I love beautiful things, but I don't want to be a person who overspends. That's something that I was in the past. I was an overspender in the past because my love of beauty drove me to that behavior. And I have since gotten that behavior under control, and I talk about that on my channel. So I don't want to be someone who doesn't ever buy anything and never acquires any new beautiful things. But when I do that, when I acquire new things, I do it mindfully and I keep track of it so that I don't get out of control like I used to be. If that kind of content sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. Let's go ahead now and get right into the meat of this video. So this is a super awkward time for me to be filming this video. Usually by the end of the month, I've kind of wrapped up in terms of like what I'm buying, like what the month is looking like. And this month, technically I've only purchased one thing with my budget, but I have been kind of like making shopping moves around some other things in kind of a dramatic way and in a way that I feel like belongs in October. Like I feel like these decisions, these purchasing decisions kind of happened in October, but the actual purchases are going to be technically in November. So I am going to split it that way. Like at the end of November, I'm going to check in and I'm going to let you know what exactly I ended up buying with essentially the remainder of my yearly budget. But in this video, I'm going to kind of talk around it a little bit and like let you know how things are looking. This is just to say that this isn't as cut and dried of how I spent my budget video as usual, but I think it'll all kind of come clear as we make our way through the video. Firstly, I want to talk to you about replacements. I have allowed myself to replace staple items, things that are sort of like the basic necessities of life, to replace them extra to my budget. So when I replace something like my shampoo, I don't have to take that amount out of my personal beauty budget. And I also made my budget lower this year to account for that, lower than it was last year, because last year I was requiring myself to take the amount that I spent on replacements out of my budget and the amount that I spent on just extra beautiful things out of my budget as well. So I did replace something kind of significant this month, which is underwear. I bought a couple of pairs, about 3 pairs of underwear just to fill out my underwear collection. It's actually a good case in point kind of about why I switched it up so that I don't have to replace things with my budget money when I compare what I did this time to what I did the last time I felt like I needed to replace my underwear. But first, let me tell you why this happened. So I had run all of my underwear incredibly ragged and down to nothing but shreds sometime last year when I was on my first beauty budget year and I had a bigger monthly budget, but I had to include replacements in it. It came time to buy some new underwear, and underwear felt like such a boring and utilitarian thing that it was really loath to spend any of my actual exciting beauty budget on underwear. And so I ended up, because I was really trying to find like serviceable underwear for as little as possible because I didn't want it to eat into my beauty budget very much because I wanted to have budget for like exciting, beautiful things. Because I was trying to minimize how much I spent, I ended up buying a pack of underwear at Costco. And it's fine, like it fit perfectly fine, but I've never had good feelings about it. Like I've never been like, oh, I love it, I can't wait to put on this underwear, which is the way I happen to feel about my bras because I have invested in some really beautiful, ethically made, small business created bras, soft bras, and I'll link them down below in case you're curious about the ones that I really love. I have invested in that. And so every time I wear my bras, every time I pull a bra out of my drawer, I feel like this flush of warmth and excitement because they're really beautiful and they're really comfortable. And I really feel good about supporting the businesses that I bought from. And even every time I handle them, like every time I wash them, every time I get them out of the laundry and put them away, I'm always like, I love you. I'm like, hey guys, hey little bras, love you so much. And then the pack of underwear, the underwear that I got from Costco last year, I don't feel that way about it. I don't even feel like it's alive. Like I don't feel like it's animate to me. It's just like these things that I have. And I'm just like, oh, my underwear, it's fine. You know, so I wash it when I have to. I wear it only when I feel like I have to, and you know, if it's just like required, and I'm always kind of like, okay. But here's what happened. When we moved to this location, I think that I did kind of like a clothing declutter. To be honest, I don't remember it that well because the move was so rushed. And this is really unusual for me because I usually have really like a clear grasp on how things went down, especially between me and my belongings. I usually remember everything. I usually am very mindful about it. But the pandemic has just like made Swiss cheese out of my brain. And especially at that time, before we had transitioned to this new location, there was so much going on, and I was in such an identity muddle that I did things like you know, deciding what to put in storage and what to bring with us and what to get rid of, and deciding and like, you know, decluttering as I was packing up. I did stuff without really all of that much focus on it. And I believe what happened was that I, at that time, decluttered the remaining underwear that had become just like so incredibly disgusting and baggy that it wasn't really useful anymore, and I wasn't really wearing it anymore. And so I had whittled my underwear collection down pretty much just to the 6 pairs that were in that Costco pack that I bought with my budget last year. So not only am I not that hot on that underwear, and it, because it's cheap, is starting to wear out itself, is starting to kind of get to the point where it's like not that good anymore at its job. Not only is that true, but it's too few pairs now for me to comfortably make it through the week. So the whole time that we've been living in this house, I've been like, I literally have no underwear. Like I go to put on a pair of underwear and it's like, it's all dirty. It seems like that happens to me several times a week. So that was why it was time to replace my underwear, like to invest in a couple of new pairs just to give myself a little bit more breathing room when it comes to like when I do my laundry and how much underwear I have at my disposal. So I'm going to keep wearing those Costco ones. But I learned my lesson, and I learned that it is something that I really do want to do some research about, and I wanted to buy from a company that I felt good supporting, and I wanted to get underwear that I would feel the same kind of warm, fuzzy feelings about in terms of fit and comfort that I feel about the bras that I have. So I embarked on some research, and this is what I've been driving at in terms of like this budgeting discussion that we have once a month, and the overall discussion of like decision making around budgeting that we have on my channel. Because I decided to exclude replacements from my budget, I felt like I had the breadth to comfortably buy the underwear that I ended up buying, even though it's not that expensive. If I had been having to take it out of my personal beauty budget, I would probably have been reluctant to spend my beauty budget on this. But because I separated the replacements from the exciting extra things, I felt like this was the exact right price point for me. Just knowing my own life and my own financial circumstances, I felt like it was the exact right price point for me, and it didn't feel like too much. And I ended up with underwear that I love 1,000 times more than I loved that Costco underwear. I wanted really high-waisted briefs, and I wanted it to be either 100% cotton or bamboo or something like that, you know, a fabric that is breathable and it's like a natural fiber. And I wanted the elastic to be soft and not to cut into me. I really like being comfortable, and I hate feeling like constrained, and I hate feeling hot and sticky. So I really wanted it to be like, you know, soft, stretchy, easy, no panty lines. I was also looking for a brand that engages in ethical manufacturing practices, ideally a small brand, not some sort of like big giant corporation. And I didn't want the underwear to be too expensive. I almost bought underwear from a couple of different places. Like I was bouncing around being like, should I try this? Should I try this? And I was kind of planning to do like a couple of pairs from one brand. And then if it didn't work out, I would maybe try something else. And I was gonna like report back to you. And if it didn't go well the first time, if it ended up being a saga, I could have made like a whole video about it, like searching for the best underwear, blah, blah, blah. Well, what happened was the brand that I ended up settling on, I love the underwear that I got, and I feel like my search is over, so that's kind of exciting. You know, I'm reporting back to you right now, and it's a much shorter story than I expected it to be. But one of the reasons I ended up going with them is that the underwear was less expensive than anything else that I found that kind of checked all of the same boxes. So it's this brand, it's called Nikki. And I found it because just searching. I've never heard of them before. I've never seen anyone talk about them on social media. I had never actually even been like Instagram ad targeted by them or anything. Like, I'd never seen the website. I didn't know about them. I just was like searching and searching. I kept Googling like high-waisted sustainable underwear, best underwear for curves, best high-waisted underwear for curvy women. Like those were like the searches that I was doing. And this eventually came up and I clicked through and I was like, bam, bam, bam. So what got me is that the high-waisted brief is extremely high-waisted, like really high-waisted. They're 100% organic cotton. They have fair trade certified factories, and they only make underwear. They don't even make bras. They have 4 underwears: a thong, like a bikini, a low rise hipster, and a high rise brief, which is the one that I got. And that's all that they make. And I really like seeing that because I feel like if you're just making the one thing, you're really focusing on the quality, all of the really small specific qualities of that thing. And that made me kind of like optimistic that they would really be delivering on all of their promises of comfort and high quality. And the colors are very beautiful. Like all of my pairs, my 3 pairs are all dirty right now, so I'm not gonna like hold them up on camera, but I'll put up pictures. Their white is like this really beautiful, dirty kind of it's like a dirty eggshell color, like a soft ivory, dirty eggshell ivory color. And that's not usually what you see when it's like the white underwear of a brand. It's usually like white, bright white, or it's like a manila, like a really beige. And this is just like one of those beautiful subtle neutrals, really pretty. They have gorgeous like terracotta and like a beautiful deep brown. And there's one called butterscotch. I just really fell for that. I was like, they've killed it with the dye colors that they're using. And the high-waisted brief looks beautiful. So to make a long story, shorter than maybe it would be if I weren't trying to just kind of cut to the chase because it's already really long. I got 3 pairs of their high-waisted briefs. I got them in a size medium, which is almost always my underwear size. I've had to size up to large for some designer fancy panties like way in the past because they run really small. A lot of those kinds of brands run really small, but I'm never a size small in underwear. I'm always squarely a medium. Everything that I've said, like the softness of the elastic, the stretchiness, the high-waistedness, the beautiful fabric, everything is just perfect. And if anything, I feel like they're a little bit big. Like I maybe could have taken a small for the first time in my life in this brand in the high-waisted brief. But they're not so extra big that I'm like unhappy with it and I'm gonna send them back or something. Not at all. I'm keeping them and I'm gonna wear them to pieces, hopefully over the course of several years, because they do feel really well made and they're gonna last a really long time. And as my Costco underwear pack completely expires and like becomes unusable, I guarantee you I will replace the rest of my underwear with underwear from this brand, Nikki. So they came in this little pink box. They came with this little pamphlet that's all about it. They came with a handwritten note, which is really sweet. Love to see that. So that was a rip-roaring smash hit success. And I'm so excited that I found really good underwear because when I was realizing that it was time that I needed like a couple of supplementary pairs of underwear, I realized that I don't have like I feel like there are a lot of things in the beauty and fashion and self-care sphere, the like self-adornment sphere. There are a lot of things that I know about. Like when people are like, what's the best lipstick? Kind of like the video that I was recently filming about when my friends ask me questions, my friends who don't wear makeup ask me questions about makeup. When people are like, what's the best drugstore mascara? Or when someone's like, I need a super amazing, comfortable, soft bralette. I always have an answer for those kinds of things. I've spent a lot of time poking around in the beauty sphere and the fashion sphere, doing trial and error. I've just done a lot of research in my spare time and, a lot of trial and error on myself as a consumer. So I've gathered a lot of information. That's part of why I like having a YouTube channel, because I can like share that information with people who care or the people who are clicking on my videos. But I don't have an answer. I didn't until recently have an answer for underwear. Like if someone had come to me and been like, what's the best buy for underwear? That's like, yeah, again, super comfortable, ethical, and organic and breathable and has some cute designs and cute color. Like if someone had come to me and asked me that, I would have been like, I don't know, man. The last underwear that I bought was from Costco and it's pretty much, garbage and I just don't know. Like that's where I was. And now I'm like, let me tell you about Nikki knocked it out of the park, and that makes me happy. I'm happy that I have like added, not just for me, but for my ability to recommend, and for anyone in the future who might ask, added some knowledge, gained some underwear knowledge over here. So that was my replacement for the month. I didn't replace anything else. Let's move into talking about how I spend my actual beauty budget. This is like the messy part of the video. So technically I only bought the one thing, and you guys already know what it is the Lisa Eldridge Velvet Dragon lipstick. And I filmed a whole video about it. And in that video, I did engage in quite a bit of discussion about my decision making as a consumer. The fact that I bought that lipstick even though I already had one, why I bought it even though I already have reds. I compared it to all of my other reds. I talked all about kind of my thought process in deciding to buy it, and my thought process after it arrived around whether it was a good decision or not. And, you know, I reported back that I was really excited about it and that it doesn't dupe anything in my collection, and it was very thorough. So I just feel like there's nothing more for me to say in this video except to just say to go and watch that one if you're curious about my experience of spending my budget in October, because that video contained a lot of the stuff that I usually talk about in this video. So in theory, that's it for the month, but I do have something interesting to report in this video that goes beyond that, which is this. I am definitely on the cusp of basically doing one haul, like one multi-item haul, and spending all of the rest of my budget for the year on that one haul, and then going on a no-buy for the rest of the year. I think it was in this video at the end of last month that I talked about thinking about doing that. No, it was in my video about how things that are cheering me up. And what's cheering me up right now? The most recent installment of my acclaimed television series, What's Cheering Me Up Right Now by Louise Poston. In the most recent one, I talked about how wearing my house dresses or wearing my casual dresses as house dresses has been cheering me up. And that's something I've kind of observed Julia doing because she wears frequently dresses around the house. And I was saying that I've been enjoying wearing the couple that I have more, wearing my dresses more casually instead of thinking of dresses as something formal. But that it's shown me that I don't really have very many casual dresses. I really just have 3 that I've been rotating among. And one of them is like a cream colored linen. It's kind of a light linen, and it's a great dress, but sometimes I worry about wearing it when I'm caring for the baby because it can be a messy thing caring for a baby. And another one of the 3 is really kind of on its last legs. Like it's starting to really come unraveled. It's starting to, it's from H&M really long time ago, and it's like a very thin jersey knit, and it's just slowly getting to the point where it feels like delicate business to wear it. So I was realizing that at the same time as I've been getting excited about having house dresses and wearing more casual dresses, I actually don't really have a wardrobe of that kind of thing. So I spent part of this month planning for that and thinking about that and shopping around for dresses. And I did get myself into the middle of the process of buying 2 different dresses, but neither of those processes is completed yet. Like I haven't technically bought either dress yet. So I feel like I can't really report back about having bought them in October because I technically didn't buy them in October, but I'll catch you up on it. So one is a dress from Nuuly. I did a month of clothing rental from Nuuly. They gave me a free month, and I filmed a video about unboxing the dresses and trying them on with Julia. And there's one dress that really struck both of our fancies. It's this long, really silly, like blue printed dress. I'll put up a picture of it. But you guys, I think a lot of you have seen it already because I've already worn it in 2 videos in addition to having tried it on in that try on video with Julia. So you know what I'm talking about. Actually, I think that I wore it in the intro and outro to that try on video. And then I wore it in another video recently, the aforementioned video about makeup recommendations for my friends who don't wear very much makeup. So that dress, I've pretty much decided that I'm going to keep it and not send it back with the Nuuly and then pay for it. Even though it's a bit expensive, I get a discount on it because if I pay to keep it, I'm keeping a used item from Nuuly, so they're not going to ask me to pay full price for it because it was used when it came into my life. But it's still, I think it's something like $180. Like it's a really expensive dress from a designer brand, and it was initially something like close to $300. And at the discounted price on Nuuly, it's less than $200, but kind of like approaching $200. So that it's no light matter. It's not like this casual thing, and it's not really like getting something from a thrift shop or a designer consignment shop either in terms of pricing. I mean, I guess it depends on the designer item. If, you know, you could end up spending that amount at a designer consignment shop on an item like that. And it is secondhand, which is great. You know, I love buying things secondhand. But it's still, that's a huge chunk. That's close to, I'll talk you through the numbers after I tell you about the items, but it's over a third and kind of approaching half of the amount that I feel like I have left to spend in the year. So that's a pretty big deal. But I haven't technically purchased it yet, and in theory, I still might decide against it. I feel like I'm sort of 80 to 90% sure that I'm going to end up paying for that dress and keeping it. So we're like most of the way through that decision, but it's not over yet. And then there's another dress that I really want to own, and I actually did go through with purchasing it, and the sizing was wrong, and so I sent it back, and I am again like 80 to 90% sure that I'm going to repurchase it in the correct size for me, but I haven't done it yet. Like I haven't followed through with that yet, so I haven't technically purchased it in the month of October. It's just, I'm basically about to buy both of these dresses, but it's going to be in November, and I'm going to circle back at the end of November and talk about them. So I'll put a picture of the dress up here. It's by a brand called Doen, which is a brand that I've only learned about recently. And you'll see that it's definitely in the realm of like a house dress, something that I could wear around casually. It's got a print, like this checkered print. That means that it's something that could take spills pretty easily. It doesn't feel formal or fancy. It does have some flair. And this is what I was looking for. I was looking for a dress that has some kind of sort of, not silly, but like sort of statement flair, like something about it that makes it a little bit something, a little bit more exciting than just like a very plain, simple, you know, I could have gotten like a straight up linen house, like a brown linen house dress that would have been really beautiful and lovely, and like a floral or something like that. There are so many dresses out there that would work for my purposes, like for something that's just like an easy wear about the house type of thing. But I wanted the dress or dresses that I acquired with this goal in mind to have something about them that excites me quite a lot. And with the one from Nuuly, it's the print and the really oversized muumuu styling. It's just very different from the things that I own, but really comfortable and easy to wear. So it's a standout piece. It's really special. This Doen dress, I feel like, is also kind of a standout piece, and it is a bit much. It is very much this like puffed sleeve prairie style thing that's very in right now. I am definitely not going to go buying like a whole bunch of clothes that fit that aesthetic, because I don't think it's something that I want to just like redefine my entire wardrobe as. You know, I don't want to be wearing that forever and ever for the whole rest of my life. But I do feel like right now, while it's hot, it kind of makes sense to pick up one really beautiful piece that sort of like fits that's emblematic of this moment in fashion, that corner of this moment in fashion, because fashion's having a lot of moments right now. And a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are happening in any given fashion moment. A lot of things besides puffed sleeves are happening in this fashion moment. But I want to just acquire one thing that speaks to that part of this fashion moment. And I want to acquire it in a piece that I can kind of like wear to shreds in a casual way around the house. I like the idea of wearing something with this like puffed sleeve styling and this sort of like slight ruffle and this like gingham checker thing. I like the idea of wearing something like that as an everyday dress. So I love this dress. I ordered it in a medium because I wanted it to be a little bit oversized. I kind of wanted it to fit me the way that it fits the model in the picture that I should have up on the screen right now. And I'm usually a small or a medium in tops and dresses, but the medium was just more fitted than I wanted it to be. It wasn't entirely like snug in the bodice, but it didn't have that relaxed, almost sack-like, shift-like feel that it looks like it has on the model. So I sent back the medium. I think that I need to size up to a large, and I'm just kind of like scraping together the gumption to go ahead and do that. And I think the reason I'm scraping the gumption together is that, you know, the two dresses together are going to knock out almost the entire rest of my budget. And let's talk about the numbers really quick. So at the end of August, I went back and I did all the math. I looked at the bunch of stuff that I bought right at the beginning of the year because I spent pretty much half my yearly budget just in January and February. And then in March, April, May, June, July, August, I just spent a little bit every month, like $20 to $30 every month. So it's like a little bit here, a little bit there. And that brought me to a position at the end of August, beginning of September, where I had between $400 and $600 left in the budget that I had given myself at the beginning of the year. So that breaks down to about $150 a month. But rather than going ahead and spending $150 or $200 a month in September and October, I continued on with my former habit of just spending a little bit. So I spent, I think, around the $30 or $40 mark. Oh no, I remember in September, I think I might have spent close to $60. But then in October, I only bought the Lisa Eldridge lipstick for about $30. So that was like another $90 that I spent. So going into this next month, I'm down to, around $500 in theory that I could spend. And then that'll be the whole rest of my budget, and that's it. So if I buy these two dresses, together they add up to pretty much exactly $400. So that's it. I'm like wiping out the rest of my budget. And in theory, there's a little bit of wiggle room, like I don't know. I've been thinking about maybe picking up another sweater or two from Poshmark, like trying to find just some sweaters in the secondhand market that are really being sold, really inexpensively, like $15, $20, just a couple more sweaters to beef up my sweater wardrobe going into the winter. And then we're done. That's it. And we're definitely done. I'll have really completely spent up to that limit that I set myself of $2,000 for the year that I set myself at the beginning of the year. And I was determined at the beginning of the year not to go over that. So I talked about maybe coming in under it. And, if I just buy the two dresses and I don't buy any sweaters or anything, then I will have come in roughly $100 under budget for the year. As you can tell, I'm pretty wishy-washy about the numbers. This is something that I've touched on a couple of times, but I would like to talk about it more. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll talk about it like towards the end of the year as I'm like looking back over this first year of attempting some kind of moderation with my budget. It's like a budget that was designed to allow me to strengthen my muscles of moderation. So I'm wishy-washy about the numbers by design. That's part of the way that I set myself up to give myself a little bit of flexibility, because the budget isn't designed to help me penny pinch. Like, it's not designed to lock me into certain things. It's there to keep me in check and to help me keep perspective all the time. It's basically there to keep me from deluding myself into just getting carried away and buying a bunch of stuff off the record and never circling back to actually face the music about what that all adds up to and what the financial consequences are of that behavior. So whether I round out the year with spending, say, $250 of my remaining budget, if I only bought one dress and then maybe one sweater, or if I buy two dresses and one sweater and I end up rounding out the year by spending, $425 of what's technically like a $500 remainder, like a $500 surplus in my budget, whichever one of those things I do, the budget is still serving its purpose, which is to make sure that I'm paying attention to what my spending is adding up to, making sure that I never kind of like clock off, because that's what I used to do before my no-buy year. I would kind of go along being relatively conscientious about my spending, and then I would just get a bug up my butt and I would go on a tear and I would like clock off of paying attention. I would go on holiday from having to be financially intelligent because I just felt like I needed it, And then I would come back from the holiday and I would never assess the damage and I would just let it kind of fester. So the budget is really, it's to keep me from ever doing that again. And again, like however many of these couple of things I'm thinking of buying, however many of them I actually go ahead and buy, either way, any way you slice it, the budget will have served that purpose. So that's why I'm so sort of like, roughly 500, like maybe a little bit of 100. That's why I'm so wishy-washy about the numbers, because it's like that looseness helps the actual function of the budget to really be what is dominant. It helps that to really shine for me. What wouldn't be fine, here's kind of another way of saying it. What wouldn't be fine would be if I decided that all bets were off and I just went ahead with spending like $50 here and $100 there on a little item that strikes my fancy and another item that strikes my fancy every week or two. Like, $100 here and there every week or two for the whole rest of the year, without ever looking back over that and adding up how much those $50 here and $100 here added up to. If I started doing that, if I sort of just let go of paying attention, that would not be fine. I would end up spending way more than what is actually left in my budget. And what's worse than that, what would actually be worse than that, I would end up losing touch with my actual reasoning for buying stuff. I wouldn't be asking myself so closely and carefully whether I was buying the things I was buying for the right reasons. And that would be like the slippery path back to the behaviors that I was engaging in before my no-buy year. So my plan is in place. I will be buying one or both dresses probably, maybe another couple of inexpensive things on the secondhand market. I will probably do like an exciting clothing haul at some point in November. That'll be fun. And then the budget, the rest of my budget for the year will have been completely wiped out, and then I will completely stop buying things for myself with my beauty budget because it will all be spent. And that means that I am skipping Black Friday. And I kind of love that for myself. I really like the fact that by the time the excitement over holiday spending bonanzas, by the time that picks up, I will be well out of it. I'll essentially be on a no-buy. And lastly, the last thing that I want to say about this is that it's making me seriously consider a seasonal spending plan for my budget for next year. And this is something that some of you have recommended over the years in the comments. And every time I'm like, every time someone recommends this, part of me is like, I could really see why that works for people, and I could maybe see it working for me. And now that I've experienced this year, and again, I'll circle back and talk more about this as we get towards the end of the year and I kind of reflect on this year and how it went with me with this budget that was designed to encourage moderation. I see the way that I behaved naturally inside of those constraints, and I see that I really gravitated towards a feast or famine model. It really was, I kind of accidentally turned it into a feast or famine model this year. I feasted at the beginning of the year, I famined during the middle of the year, and now I'm sort of feasting again at the end of the year. I'm like planning for that. I'm basically going to spend like what would have been the equivalent of 4 months of budget all in 1 month next month, and then that's it, right? So I'm thinking about setting my budget up for me to do that by design next year. So maybe having like 4 weeks throughout the year that are like my spending season, where like maybe for a chosen week or 2 weeks towards the beginning of the year, and then one like every quarter, basically every quarter, I'll like haul things, and that'll be me spending my beauty budget. And then for all of the weeks in between that week and then the next one, when I haul things again, all of the weeks in between, I'll be on a complete no-buy. I think that could work really well for me. There are so many points in its favor. I've been thinking about this a lot. It's a little bit fresh right now, but I'll tell you. One is that I'm way less likely to nickel and dime myself. Like I'm less likely to buy little things that end up kind of adding up to kind of significant chunks of my budget. I'm less likely to do that because when I'm sitting down to spend a larger chunk of my yearly budget all at once, I'm more prone to actually commit to fewer, nicer things, right? If I'm doing it just in one fell swoop, then I'm weighing the pros and cons directly against each other of, a bunch of littler, less expensive things against 1 or 2 big, beautiful, more expensive things. I feel like if I'm making all of those decisions at once within the same week, I'm always going to go with fewer, nicer things. Whereas when I spread it out over the course of months and it's like a little bit here, a little bit there, it's hard not to give into the temptation to just buy a little something. So I feel excited about basically setting myself up to not nickel and dime myself out of my budget ever. The other point in its favor is the relief of those long no-buy periods. That's really attractive. It's really attractive to me to think about being on a no-buy for most of the days of the year of 2021, and then having there be these weeks, a couple of times a year where I spend the budget that I've set aside for myself to spend on beautiful things. It just feels like it will be a better year because the feeling of being on a no buy is one of relief and relaxation, because you've decided all of the decisions have been made for you already. Every day that you wake up and you're on a no buy, there are no questions about what you'll buy or whether you'll buy something because you've already decided on it. The answer is just no. It's just every single day of your no buy, it's just no, I'm not shopping today. I'm not buying anything today. And I would love for that to pretty much define my experience of the year next year. I would love to find a way to have that for most of the year, but still to buy myself a couple of nice things with the budget that I want to spend. It also means that I will spend less time overall in my life and in the year shopping and thinking about shopping. And I would love that for myself. And I also think that those seasonal hauls would make really great YouTube videos, and it could lend itself to some really good YouTube content. So that's a little preview of what I'm thinking about for next year. All this video has pretty much been previews because all that I bought with my budget was that one lipstick, and I already did a video about it. So I'll link things down below, but basically look forward to the actual report next month. I'll probably do a clothing haul. That would be so fun. And then at the end of next month, I will kind of let you know how all of the chips fell with the decision making around spending the whole rest of my budget for the whole rest of the year and then going on a no buy for the rest of the year. That is it. That's my video about how I spent my budget. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you have experience with seasonal spending, like having like a shopping season, I know that you're out there. I know that there are people who do that, who've like been doing that, like running your lives that way. If you have experience with that, give me your wisdom if you're willing to share in the comment section down below. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.